What a terrific honor, and I want to first begin by congratulating all of you. Frankly, this is sort of the way Washington works. Other people work hard and politicians take the credit for it at the end of the day, but your tireless advocacy and your efforts to educate members in both parties about how important basic research is and what it can yield for this country has just been absolutely indispensable in laying the groundwork for what was accomplished last year. And to be honest with you, like most things in Washington, there's always a predicate. It's great to be with my good friend, Representative Porter, who actually did double the NIH budget, working with Speaker Gingrich. The first person that contacted me after I was appointed to this position was my good friend Roy Blunt, who I understand spoke a little bit earlier this evening. I had a chance to bump into him. And like all things, look, I was a deputy whip for Roy Blunt. I still work for Roy Blunt, even though he's gone to the Senate. But he said, Tom, why did you agree to do this? Because it's not usually a position a Republican takes. And he said, did you have a choice? And I said, yeah, I had a choice. I said, Hal Rogers came to me, and the chairman of the Appropriations Committee said, Tom, can I get you to take Labor H? And I said to him, do I have a choice? And he said, well, yeah. And I said, well, then my choice is do what my chairman wants me to do. That's always a good way to begin this in Washington, D.C. But I said, I have two things I need to get from you in return, which my two predecessors, Jack Kingston and Denny Rehberg, frankly didn't have. I said, first, I need a really strong committee on my side of the aisle. And just to be honest with you, in terms of the way Washington works, I mean, if you're a Republican, you want to be on the Defense Subcommittee of Appropriations. This is where you start to earn your way. So we run a lot of people through, and we have some excellent members that were already on there, but you needed to beef it up because on the other side, this is the Democrats' favorite committee. Not just because of NIH or CDC, but there's everything in here. I love to call the Labor H bill catnip for Democrats. There's nothing they don't like. I mean, it's perfect. So when I look over on the other side, and my ranking member is Rosa DeLore, you couldn't have a better person, but you couldn't have a tougher opponent either. And every single one of her Democrats on her side of the aisle is a ranking member on another subcommittee, which means the top Democrat on that committee. So you're really facing the very best that they have to offer, and they are terrific members. So I said, get me some firepower that's equal. So we got Mike Simpson, who's the chairman of Energy and Water for us, and Charlie Dent, who's chairman of MilCon and Veterans Affairs for us, both Cardinals, and it's really strengthened that committee. And I said, the second thing you need to do is give me a decent allocation. I don't have to have as much money as the Democrats have, but I got to have more money than we've had in the past so that we can pick some priorities. And clearly NIH and CDC, and I could name a few other things that I think are priorities. We need to be able to, frankly, outbid our friends on the other side, and not outbid them, but start what I'd call a virtuous competition. I sit on the Indian Affairs Subcommittee of Appropriations, or excuse me, the Interior Subcommittee. I'm Native American, care a lot about the funding for Indian health and Native American programs. And a number of years ago, I got on that committee, and we began this. And so even in a period of constrained budgets, Indian health is up 54% since 2008. And each side, we fight over a lot of things in Interior. We fight over grazing rights. We fight over, mineral extraction on federal lands. You name it, there's plenty of things to fight. We fight over the EPA. But we decided that Indian health and making good our treaty obligations would be something where the Republicans and the Democrats come together and work on. Same thing's true on this committee. This is something that I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat, liberal or conservative, Alzheimer's and cancer don't pick people that way. And everybody wants to do something, and everybody has a personal story. And frankly, in a very divided time, a very divided town, a very polarized and partisan time, people are actually looking for the things they can work on together and go home and talk about. NIH is one of those things. CDC are one of those things. So it was just honestly to be blunt with you, it was smart politics, but it was the right thing to do. It's good for the country. And we can go through all the arguments, but I have some personal experience here. My dad had Alzheimer's. My wife has MS. So I've seen what this does personally. But also look at the budget pretty realistically. And we're spending, up to last year, $556 million on Alzheimer's research. And yet we're spending well over $150 billion to take care of Alzheimer's patients. Only government would do that. Spend 99% of the money to manage the problem and 1% to solve it. Changing that equation, long term, is going to save us a lot of money. And that actually makes sense to some of my green eyeshade friends in my own caucus. But even more powerfully, just doing the right thing for people, our own people, and honestly, people all over the world who benefit. We have the ability to do things in this country that other people simply aren't blessed to have the ability to do. And I believe in the biblical injunction to those much is given, much is expected, and much has been given to us. So I want to thank you because, frankly, we would not have been able to do what we did in a difficult year if we had not had people year in, year out. I know you come up here, you wonder whether or not it makes a difference. And as you educate members and you talk them everything from personal stories to here's the economics of this, here's the value of this to our society, it made the difference. And we just got, Roy and I, and we've been very honest about this, we got to be there to harvest your hard work over a lot of years. Let me just end with this. I am very determined that this not be a one-hit wonder, that this becomes something that this committee looks on in a bipartisan way, no matter who's in the White House, and says, this is something we're going to work on each and every year. And we're going to do what John Porter did. We're going to find, I'm not going to tell you we're going to do as good as John Porter did, but we're going to try and follow that same pattern. We're going to make this something that the two parties cooperate on, work together on, and can take pride in when they go home and talk to their constituents, or frankly, when they just work with one another. I think this has the potential to do that. I see my good friend Dr. Collins in the audience, and I have to tell you, you couldn't have a better person to work with in terms of working with members on both sides of that committee and instructing them into what's possible and what's valuable. You can't believe how excited and almost giddy members of Congress get. They go out to the NIH, they see some of his extraordinary colleagues out there. Frankly, they meet some of the patients, all of whom have heartbreaking stories, but have some hope, have some possibility in front of them. So I think we will do better this year. And I love to point out that the president last year put more money on the table for NIH. That's a good thing, because then we said once he lays a target, we want to beat the target. He did that again this year. We're going to beat the target again this year. I don't know exactly where we're going to end up. Be a little tougher, but I'll commit to you this. I mean, we won't reduce discretionary spending at NIH by a nickel. My Democratic friends feel as strongly about that as I do. We're going to keep that, because once you get into mandatory funding, you don't know if you're going to get it. It's going to be a cliff. It's a problem for you. So we're going to keep every nickel we got from the hard work. And then we're going to look seriously at what the president's proposed, because we agree with him on a cancer moonshot. We agree with him on opioids. We agree with him on a lot of things he laid out, and we're going to find a way to pay for it. Now, there'll be some tough decisions along the way in other areas, but as I told Dr. Collins on one occasion, you know, this is a business sometimes of robbing Peter to pay Paul. You're a very lucky guy because you're Paul. And you don't have to figure out who the Peters are. That's not your job. That's our job. But we're going to do it. So again, just thank you so much, not just for the award, which is of course a wonderful and a great privilege. Thank you much more profoundly as somebody who lost his father to Alzheimer's, whose wife struggles with MS, for the many, many years of effort and labor that you've spent educating members of Congress, putting us in a position to make this, as John Porter did, a national priority, and getting us back on the right track. It'll pay dividends, obviously, in terms of medical research, biomedical research, the lives, the quality of life of millions of people around the time, and actually, in a very fundamental way that you probably don't give yourself credit for, it'll help heal Washington a little bit. Because again, this is something that crosses divides. And right now in this country, we need things that bring us together. We've got plenty of things that pull us apart. Your effort here has put something in front of members of Congress Democrat, Republican, liberal, conservative, that can bring them together, that they can take pride in, and frankly, something that the American people want to see happen and will honor those who participate in it. That wouldn't happen without your very, very hard work. So again, thank you for the honor. Thank you for being here tonight. I'm sorry I got here late, but I got to tell you, I was at the Budget Committee. You needed me there more than you wanted me here. So thanks again.